Thank you for coming. Today I'm releasing the province's second quarter fiscal update. You'll recall that in fiscal quarter update released at the end of August, the first fiscal quarter update released at the end of August, I projected a $10.9 billion deficit, $500 million more than forecast in budget 2016. The reasons for this were largely the result of the Wood Buffalo wildfires. The total to fight the wildfires, combined with lost revenue, cost the Treasury $500 million. So that's where we were 3 months ago. Where are we today? At the end of the second quarter, the projected deficit is expected to decrease from $10.9 to $10.8 billion, a small but measurable improvement. You'll also remember that the first quarter update, I increased the forecasted price of oil from $42 to $45 per barrel. To date, the average price is $45.90. We are not changing the forecasted price. It remains at $45. Moreover, I'm maintaining the full $700 million risk adjustment that we built into our budget to protect it against falling oil prices. With so much market volatility, I'm simply not prepared to book any of that money against our deficit. So what can Albertans reasonably expect going forward? Of course, the oil price collapse is still reverberating throughout our economy. Too many Albertans are out of work. Too many families worry about paying the bills. But it's also the case, as this update shows, that the province's economy is now showing signs of stability. Many major economic indicators are leveling off and business output is slowly improving. In the last 3 months, 25,000 new jobs have been created. The housing market is stabilizing and our population is growing. Next year, real GDP is expected to grow by 2.3%. bolstered by improving oil prices, infrastructure spending, and wildfire reconstruction. Some positive signs to be sure, green shoots. That said, significant risks remain for Alberta in an uncertain global marketplace for our chief commodity. Therefore, I want to reiterate what I said at the first quarter. Our aim must be, and is, to take steps to diversify Alberta's economy, to give our kids the best start in life, and to protect patient care, and to bring our books back into balance thoughtfully and prudently with one goal in mind: to move Alberta forwards in a more resilient, stable, and prosperous way. Thank you very much, and I'll take questions.
Are we still back on a path to balance for 2024? Are we seeing any movement on that front?
You know, as always, our goal is to be prudent in the expenditure of monies for operations, to work to diversify the economy, and to invest in infrastructure. With those things taken into account, we believe we're on the stable path to balance and addressing our deficit. Yes.
So with green shoots, as you said, in the economy, when can Albertans start to see that translate to the provincial books? Like what, 16, 17, 18, will we start to see that number start to come down on the deficit side?
You know, we have in the second quarter update here GDP growth of 2.3%. That will cause stability, though it's too soon to say. We're seeing positive signs across some indicators. That'll cause greater stability for Albertans. There's too many Albertans still out of work. There are too many families still experiencing hardships. We want to see more happen with regard to stability there, and as that happens, we'll see the Government of Alberta's resources and finances become more stable.
So you can't say if it'll be next year yet or not?
I can't say what.
Then we'll start to see some chunks come out of that deficit. Will we start to see the deficit come down starting next year if we start to see economic growth?
Oh, you know, our plan has always been, we're still on the same plan. We still have the same plan to slowly reduce our deficit as we go forward through the diversification of our economy, the investment in infrastructure, but not to make it more difficult for Albertans. So we're not going to throw teachers and nurses out of work. We're going to keep our programs and services strong.
Minister, what does does the social worker side of you think of the increased demand for things like age payments, for example, and income stability, that kind of thing?
Well, I don't think it's just my social worker side. It's everybody is concerned about the most Sure, as finance minister too. Everyone's concerned about the most vulnerable in our society, and this government has a commitment to support people because of the population growth, because of the ongoing 2-year recession. We are seeing an increase in the numbers of cases, the number of people needing support. So income security, AISH, and other programs have come forward with cost pressures, and we've addressed those because it's important to do always, but increasingly when there's a recession.
And there is a modest growth predicted for next year, but do you anticipate these areas to also increase or to level off?
You know, that's a good question. I think what we see is some lag in these challenges, both for individuals. So the lags behind an improving economy, but as the economy improves, we will see fewer and fewer people requiring this kind of support.
Minister, we saw revenue go up $1.3 billion. A good thing, I would assume, but then expenses are going up as well, 1.7.
Right.
Where's that disparity, and how do you explain that to Albertans, that even though we're making more money, we're spending a lot more?
Yeah, well, it would point to the cause of the Fort McMurray wildfire on both revenues and expenses. We reported that out at Q1, that there was about a $500 million impact as a result of the wildfires. So that's what you're seeing here still today.
We've seen a significant drop in corporate tax revenue. The only managing officer is going to point to that is, well, you raised it on them.
No.
Is there any correlation there?
I would say the thing you can point to is the recession and the profitability of corporations not being as good as it was pre-recession times.
So there's no correlation whatsoever, but we aren't seeing capital going to other jurisdictions because of these increases?
That 2% increase in corporate taxes was to make us to address something we felt was important, that if you're making money, you should be paying a little bit more. And we did that. That puts us in the middle of the pack if you look across the country in terms of corporate taxes. So we're not out in front of anybody that way. We're the middle of the pack, and we will see corporate taxes return to a higher level once the recession, which appears to be coming to an end, but it's still, as a number of indicators have shown us, but it's still too early to say. We'll see corporate taxes return to a higher level once the economy is doing better.
We've seen, according to this update, we've seen 25,000 jobs added, but there's been job losses in the service sector, and we were told 7,500 in finance, insurance, and real estate, 6,300 in information and culture, and 2,600 in healthcare and social assistance. So what is that telling you about our economy right now?
Well, the 25,000 over the last 3 months tells me that there are sectors of our economy that are picking up and doing better. We're seeing that in the oil and gas sector, we're seeing that in manufacturing, and we're seeing that in the service sector generally. So it tells me that some things are improving and some things are challenged. But as we go forward, we think that 2.3% growth increase in our GDP next year will show stronger growth for many sectors.
But do you think this is good news if people are still losing their jobs in different sectors, the service sector particularly?
Well, when a person loses their job, it's never good news. I mean, it is challenging for them as an individual and for their families. What we want to see as we go forward is all sectors improve with job growth. We're seeing that in some now, and that's helpful. That's gratifying for those sectors, but we want to see it more consistently across the board.
Okay, we're going to go to the phone lines. Operator, could you please put through the first caller?
Your next question comes from Nia Williams of Reuters. Your line is open.
Hi there. I wanted to ask if government approval of the Trans Mountain pipeline would change these forecasts at all, or is that all too far out?
Well, you know, I think, yeah, it would help. It would help get our landlocked commodity, which is sold primarily to the United States. Our biggest customer is our biggest competitor. It would help us diversify our market to international waters, would be a good thing for this province. We'd see ourselves, and as royalty, I guess, getting international prices for right now a commodity that's discounted for every barrel that goes this state. So it would be good things for both Alberta, but more importantly, it'd be a good thing to the companies that then would be able to have greater amounts of monies to be investing into capital, investing into new exploration, investing into this province, which we want to see.
Operator, put through the next caller, please.
Our next question comes from Jeff Morgan of the Financial Post. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. I've got one question and actually two questions, a second one, a small follow-up. With respect to the 25,000 jobs that you mentioned earlier, interested in whether or not you're concerned. My understanding is many of these are part-time jobs. Are you concerned that we're losing full-time jobs and they're being replaced with part-time? And if so, how do you address that?
Well, it gets addressed as a result of the economy picking up, and we're certainly seeing some indicators say that the economy will be picking up next year. We have, as that happens, the job front will stabilize and more full-timers will be brought on. You know, I would like more full-time job growth to occur. So that people can do a better job of having stability in their families and their incomes and increase our average weekly wages. That looks like it's going to start to occur in the not too distant future.
Okay, thank you. And for the follow-up, I mentioned a few times now that recession appears to hopefully be coming to an end. Wanted to ask you whether or not you have any projections, how long it will take until economic activity recovers to pre-recession levels?
You know, I think Albertans would be really just satisfied to see everything start to pick up again, and we show that in 17, 18. The work, it'll take a while. We have, since 2014, we've been on a 2-year dip. It's going to take more than 2017, more than 2018, but we're going to be repairing this economy going forward, and we'll start to see that in 2018-19.
Okay, operator, we'll go to our next question.
Next question comes from James Wood of the Calgary Herald. Your line is open.
Hi, Minister. I wanted to ask you, given the government's current financial situation, and you've repeatedly said you're going to be trying to hold the line on spending, how is this going to affect the government's approach on labor negotiations? Has there been consideration given to either a hiring freeze or a wage freeze, as has been suggested by some of the other political parties?
Yeah, we have hiring restraint on now, James. We've had that on for over a year. So that is helping to ensure that our operating expenses stay as low as we can make them. We, you know, are looking for great agreements with organized labor. That is the purview, of course, of a team that is looking at negotiating all contracts that are coming up. But that work's going to be done at the table to communicate both our financial outlook and I'm sure, like the doctor's agreement, there is a great willingness to help out in these difficult times. We have committed, of course, not to lay people off, not to fire people. We're not going to get back to balance on the backs of workers, nor on the services and programs Albertans rely on.
Can I just ask you as a follow-up on this? I mean, you were talking about hopeful signs economically at this point, and I think that the criticism or something we will hear from your political opponents are saying, well, why would we want to be bringing in new taxation measures, the carbon tax, at a time when this could actually affect the recovery? What's your response to that?
Well, the carbon levy, fully implemented, still leaves us with a $7.5 billion tax advantage over other provinces. So we know that the carbon levy is the important social license that'll cause Canadians all across the country and frankly, people who buy Alberta oil to better appreciate that everything that can be done is being done to ensure that the oil that gets produced here and the use that that oil gets put to in our province is done in the best way possible. So my response is that the carbon levy was something communicated in terms of where this government's always been at. It's in line with the movement of other governments across the world and indeed our federal government. So it is an important, responsible action to take that we will bring in prudently and effectively to turn down the tap on GHGs, but also to improve our province on the efficiency and innovation and the use of the carbon in our province.
We're going to stick with the phone lines. We've got 3 more callers. Operator, could you put through the next caller?
Your next question comes from Rick Bell of the Calgary Sun. Your line is open.
Hello, Minister. Just a quick question. As the economy, the state of the economy goes up and gets better, are you confident that the support for your government will also get better along with the economy?
I think that I'll work on the economy, I'll work on the books, and we'll let Albertans decide for themselves where they believe what they believe about this government. I think the important thing is to support Albertans as we have done. I think the important thing is to work on diversifying the economy so that more Albertans can get back to work. And I think the important thing is to invest in this province so going forward there is the necessary infrastructure when our economy takes off again. And we'll leave Albertans up to their own decision-making around whether they like that or think that something else could be better suited to them.
But just a quick supplementary, traditionally in the past though, when the economy's bad, the government gets blamed, and when the economy's good, the government gets at least some of the accolades.
Hey, I'm for that.
Do you think that'll be true this time as well? In other words, is a lot of the discontent of the government tied to the economy rather than to what you're doing?
The economy is challenging for Albertans, and it's the second year. As things improve, I think Albertans will, and as our plan is better appreciated, that it has helped return us to a stable, predictable future, I think Albertans will thank us for it.
All right, operator, we're going to go to our next caller.
Your next question comes from Chris Barco of the Calgary Herald. Your line is open.
Hi, Minister. I have 2 questions. One is, I see from the quarterly results that it says there's been a 16% drop in business investment this year, and that follows last year's drop of about 23%. I'm wondering whether you're just concerned about the lack of capital investment coming from the business sector, and is there anything that the government can do about it? That's my first question.
Well, yes, of course we're concerned. We're still at a place as a province where there's the greatest amount of private capital investment of any province. So we're starting. We were at an incredibly high level. The recession has still kept us at a high level, but at a reduced amount. So what we're doing about it is some things that will be coming in shortly. We announced them in Budget 2016, the Alberta Jobs Plan, and that was to have an investor tax credit and a capital investment tax credit. We'll see both the pooling of capital and the dedication to companies that want that capital as they move towards commercialization of their products or services. So that's a good thing, and then we'll see the the capital investment tax credit be used for infrastructure or equipment or materials that those same companies or other companies can utilize to build their companies up. So we're certainly interested, well, certainly focused is what I'd say on seeing more capital come to the province. Certainly I'm hopeful on pipeline announcements. I'm hopeful that the trips that we have been engaging in on the economic development trade angle are helpful as well, and see more capital come into this province.
Just to follow up on that, you've got a couple of decisions coming from the federal government, rather, in the next week or two. One is on Line 3, another one on Northern Gateway, and then, of course, Trans Mountain. And then later this week, you've actually got a meeting of the OPEC producers. I'm just wondering how critical are these meetings and these upcoming decisions on the turnaround for the Alberta economy in your mind?
Well, let me first say that, you know, we're sticking with our plan, which is to bring down the deficit over time, to invest in capital infrastructure, to help Albertans out through this downturn, and to make sure we're working to diversify the economy. We believe that, I believe that those things are the right approach, and the pipeline announcements will have a positive effect, of course. I'm hopeful around all of that. But the risk adjustment stays in the budget with regard to the $700 million as a result of OPEC or volatility in the oil price, international price. I just think it's prudent to keep it there for the time being until we see where things shake out with regard to international oil prices.
All right, operator, we'll do our last caller, please.
Your next question comes from Jeff Lewis of the Globe and Mail. Your line is open.
Hi, just a quick question. How will the government pay for costs associated with changes to electricity market policies? Is the carbon tax going to be enough to pay for potentially a cap on regulated rates, payments to coal producers, and rebates to low-income residents? Or do you foresee a need to sort of raise additional sources of revenue?
No, Jeff, I don't. The carbon levy is the source that we'll be using for those payments. That's certainly the plan, and I anticipate that it will be adequate.
All right, we'll come back to the floor. Any other follow-up questions?
On those pipelines, has your government been given a heads up on what the decision might be, or are you waiting with?
I'm waiting like everybody else on the announcements. You know, whenever they are, we will be looking forward to the hopefully a positive decision.
Any predictions? Northern Gateway's been.
You know, I bet on the stamps just earlier a couple days ago, so I'm maybe not great that way, but this government has been working very hard to represent the views of Albertans and companies and businesses in this province. We have worked tirelessly to bring up and share why pipelines to Tidewater are not just in the interests of Albertans and Alberta companies, but they're in the interests of all of Canada and Canadians. This is national infrastructure that would benefit us all, and I'm certainly hopeful that that's the direction, and that's what's been heard at the federal level.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone.